Good morning, everyone. I'm sitting here in my recliner with a blanket on, snowing like crazy. Kind of hoping tomorrow's a snow day, but who knows. So anyways, I want to go over what we've covered so far towards the end of Unit 1, show you where we're headed, and explain our next assignment to you. We started out with Webster's Dictionary. New country, 13 colonies joining together. We thought we better create our own language and get rid of some of the British spellings. So we started out there. Then we jumped into Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. We talked quite a bit about his 13 virtues and the fact that he wanted to try to achieve moral perfection, which proved to be quite a task. He soon found out. After that, we took a look at Poor Richard's Almanac, also written by Franklin. And in there, he had aphorisms, which also known as just short sayings with a message. We kind of dug into those and determined what the meaning of some of those were. And we picked out our favorite motto in life, not necessarily one of Ben Franklin's, but our own. Moving from there, we get to the slaves making the journey from Africa to America, and we jumped into our first slave narrative. So these were very important because they told the story of that journey, and without those, we may not have that information today. So we jumped into the slave narratives, and along with a new set of people coming to our country, they brought some of their influences, their cultural influences, to America. So the next thing we're jumping into now are the African proverbs. And proverbs and aphorisms have some similarities, but they're also different. And for our assignment, we're going to be thinking about a couple different things, but mostly we're going to be comparing Ben Franklin's aphorisms to some African proverbs. And so some of the things to reflect on are what are the similarities and differences between Ben Franklin's aphorisms and African proverbs, which we will talk more about in a minute. What is the difference between an aphorism and a proverb? More importantly, do people around the world relate to universal themes? And what might some of these universal themes be? So in other words, no matter where you're from in the world, can you relate to a theme of friendship or love and how it affects your life? Or working hard to get something out of life? So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm going to start out with talking about proverbs and oral tradition, and then I'll take you over to our assignment. So the 18th century English statesman Lord John Russell defined a proverb as this: one man's wit and all men's wisdom. And when you think about wit and wisdom, you definitely think about Benjamin Franklin. He was witty, he was kind of a funny, quirky guy. He was also pretty full of wisdom. So I can already start to see that a proverb and an aphorism is going to have some similarity. Around 1600, the Spanish novelist Miguel de Cervantes, who is the author of the novel Don Quixote, hopefully you've heard of that, he coined another pithy saying about proverbs. He defined them as short sentences drawn from long experiences. Another kind of witty definition for a proverb. A proverb is basically just a traditional wise saying. It offers some cultural wisdom, and it has practical truth about life. So a short saying with some practical truth about life, and it includes wisdom. They're a distillation of a culture's common wisdom, and they exist in all the world's known languages. So cultures from around the world have proverbs, although we will just be focusing on African proverbs because we're talking about the slaves coming to America and some of the proverbs they brought with them and oral tradition. Proverbs are widely different throughout the cultures, but they still have the same structure. A lot of them cover the same subject matter or themes. They are heavy with metaphors, so you don't take them literally. You have to determine what the meaning is, and we did that in Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac. Looked at, what does this really mean when he says this? So like myths and folk tales and legends, proverbs play a very important role in cultures with strong oral tradition. They're usually transmitted by word of mouth, so they're a type of folk literature, but at some point they are written down and gathered and made into anthologies or big works of art that are literary works of art. And we read Benjamin Franklin's collection in Poor Richard's Almanac, and there are tons and tons of books with proverbs from cultures from around the world. So let's take a look now at the assignment that we're talking about, which is right here. Your essential question is, how are African proverbs and Benjamin Franklin's aphorisms similar and different? So what I want you to be able to do is explain what a proverb is, explain what an aphorism is, identify the themes that are common between the two. So you're going to identify some themes of some African proverbs, and then you're going to compare those themes to some of Ben Franklin's aphorisms. And then you're going to discuss how they're the same or similar and how they're different. I'm going to have you start out with watching a YouTube video that has, it's about 4 minutes long. It has many African proverbs on it. And I have to fix this spelling error because that will drive me crazy. I'm going to have you look up the definition of a proverb and write it out in your own words. Describe what a proverb is in your own words. Same thing for an aphorism. Describe it in your own words. And then for the table here, oh, and before I forget, I do have some resources here for you. But for the table here, there's common themes down the center: friendship, hard work, and greed. So your job is to find an African proverb whose theme is friendship, and then one of Franklin's aphorisms whose theme is friendship. Same thing for hard work. Find an African proverb whose theme is hard work, and one of Franklin's aphorisms that's hard work, and then for greed. These are very helpful resources. This is the entire text of Richard's Almanac, Poor Richard's Almanac. You can do a Google search if you'd like, but just make sure you go to a reliable source. This is a really good source for African proverbs. I would just stick with this one. After that, you're going to take a look at the proverb, the aphorism. Tell me, what do you see that's similar? Just anything you can think of that's similar. And answer this in a complete sentence. Same thing for, what do you see that's different about them? And explain that in your own words. You'll be graded based on this 4-point rubric. So this assignment is just a 4-point assignment. And basically what I'm looking for is that you would be able to teach this or apply this in a new way. If you can explain it to me down here thoroughly, and if you have proverbs and aphorisms that do indeed match up, then I know you understand what you're doing and that you could teach it to someone else. So it's really important that these number 4 and 5, that these explanations are thorough, so I understand that you understand this concept. It's okay if you want to work with someone, but you each have to turn in your own assignment. So I would love to have you discussing this with one another. And if you find a really good proverb on friendship, maybe share it with someone else and say, okay, now can we match up one of Franklin's with this? And, work together on figuring this out, but also complete your own work and explain things in your own words. So these are pretty interesting. They're fun. I thought that the aphorisms were fun, and these are really interesting as well. Hope you enjoy this.